Recently, there was a Buzzfeed article about an illustrator who is reimagining Disney characters in more realistic bodies. Their reimagined bodies were curvy and, gasp, had more room for internal organs. I know. Joking aside, I genuinely love that these conversations and these images are becoming more mainstream. And I also have a few thoughts as a body positive health and fitness coach. We had a really cool conversation in our StudioCrew membership when the article came out. Several members talked about how amazing this was for kids because they don't have that cognitive development to recognize that these images aren't realistic. And I agree, that's true. But I also want to talk about how it's not just kids that need this visual disruption. While technically us adults have the reasoning and the brain development to recognize the absurdity of these ultra thin, unrealistic, beauty-eyed body ideals, it doesn't mean we use it. Let me explain with a little parable. I've heard it in a few places, so I'm actually not sure of the attribution. So if anybody knows, feel free to comment or let me know. I would genuinely love to know. How it goes is this. There's two fish swimming in the water. For topical relevance, we're going to call them Nemo and Dory. Nemo says to Dory, "How's the water?" To which Dory responds, "What water?" Well, my friends, we are swimming in the sea of unrealistic body ideals informed by diet culture. It's so insidious, we don't see it. It's everywhere. And the result is we've completely internalized it, which means it's woven into the reality of our inner worlds. In other words, what unrealistic body ideal? What diet culture? We see these images and we don't even question them. They're normal. They're our normal. But they're not reflective of the diversity that exists in our real world. They're not reflective of our bodies. So this creates some incongruence between what we see and what we are, and it can really kind of mess us up. Until we see diverse bodies represented out there, it's unlikely that we'll really feel accepted and grounded and okay with our bodies. So, what can you do to challenge these internalized, normalized narratives and visual ideals? I want to offer you three of my favorite things to amp up your awareness of the sea of diet culture that we are swimming in. The first is to follow diverse bodies. Seeing images in your feed that visually confront these unhelpful narratives is so good for your brain. Some of my favorites on Instagram are photographer Terry Harrison, runner Jeffrey Binney, activist and author Sonia Renee Taylor, and activist Virgie Tovar. Unfollow folks who reinforce the narrative that your body is a project and the source of your worth. That's tip number 2, and it's meaty, so let me explain a little bit more. That does not mean you have to unfollow anyone who fits the thin ideal. Some bodies are naturally going to fit that ideal. We don't need to demonize them. We need to add to this conversation. I'm also talking about influencers and diet culture folks who share before and afters, or only show one type of body that is very close to that thin ideal. Or maybe they show diverse bodies, but that's because they're being celebrated for that progress they're making in this kind of patronizing, like, way to go, you're working on it kind of energy. Not helpful. Tip number 3 is to speak up. Use your voice. If you see something that rubs you the wrong way, say something. And I'm not talking about being a troll. We can be kind and compassionate as we speak up and challenge these ideas. You know, really what we want to do is just hold folks and businesses accountable for the damage they are doing. And quite frankly, they probably don't even know they're doing. So, lean in with self-compassion, lean in with, empathy and understanding. We only do what we can with what we know, right? So we're going to all try to do our best. Some examples. When you see a bigger body person, is it always the fat or the funny character? I am looking at you, Disney. When there are fat jokes in the media, I'm looking at you, Fat Monica on Friends or Schmidt on The New Girl. Or fitness professionals saying one thing and doing another, saying, it's not about changing your body, and then sharing before and after pictures, or promoting restrictive eating and punitive fitness programming. We can change the sea we are swimming in by speaking up and demanding a change. And if actually saying something feels like too much or it doesn't feel safe for you, you can also vote with your likes, comments, and dollars. We can stop supporting these businesses. If we stop consuming, they will change. I share ideas like this and so much more in my course, The Super You Mindset. If you'd like to learn more about it or the StudioCrew community I mentioned earlier, check out the link in the video description, along with the link to that Buzzfeed article. And if you have a comment, idea, or something you'd like to contribute to this conversation, consider joining the conversation over on Instagram, Facebook, or comment below.